The WNBA just got hit with a reality check that nobody saw coming. Well, actually, everyone saw it coming except the league office. Ready for this? Without Caitlin Clark on the court, ratings have completely collapsed. We're talking about a 55% nosedive in viewership. That's not a dip, that's a disaster. And before you say, well, every league depends on their stars, let me stop you right there. This isn't normal star dependency. This is something else entirely. When LeBron sits out, the NBA doesn't lose half its audience. When Patrick Mahomes misses a game, the NFL doesn't see ratings crater by millions. But when Caitlin Clark tweaks her groin, the entire WNBA turns into a ghost town. Here's the part that should terrify every owner in the league. Last year, Fever vs. Skice were pulling in 3.1 million viewers at their peak. Their most recent matchup, without Clark, won 3 million. Do the math. That's nearly 2 million people who just vanished. Poof, gone. Changed the channel and never came back. And honestly, the way this league has treated their golden goose, they deserve every bit of this ratings apocalypse. But we'll get to that in a second. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we're the only channel giving you the real story about what's happening in women's basketball. No sugarcoating, no agenda, just facts. Now, let's talk about how badly the WNBA fumbled this whole situation because this injury didn't just happen out of nowhere. Clark has been getting absolutely hammered all season with barely any protection from the refs. We're talking about flagrant fouls that get called as common fouls, clear targeting that gets ignored, landing space violations that officials pretend they don't see. Remember that Connecticut Sun game where Clark finally went down? She'd been limping for weeks before that, taking hit after hit, getting grabbed on every drive, dealing with defenders who knew they could get away with murder because the whistle never came. And now look where we are. Their biggest draw is sitting on the bench in street clothes while ratings tank faster than the Chicago playoff hopes. The numbers tell a story that should have every network executive sweating bullets. When Clark played against the Liberty on May 24th, CBS pulled in 2.2 million viewers. Fast forward to games without her. NBA TV can barely crack 350,000. That's not growth. That's not momentum. That's a league in crisis pretending everything is fine. But wait, it gets worse. Much worse. The All-Star Game, supposedly the crown jewel of the WNBA season, just proved what everyone already knew. Without Clark on the court, even the league's biggest showcase can't maintain momentum. Last year, with Clark playing 44 million viewers this year, with her coaching from the sidelines. 19 million. That's a 36% drop for what should have been a can't-miss event. Think about that for a second. The All-Star Game had every other star in the league. A.A. Wilson, Nafisa Collier, Sabrina Ionescu, all of them. And still lost over 1 million viewers because one player wasn't suited up. If that doesn't scream we have a Caitlin Clark league, not a WNBA, I don't know what does. The really fascinating part, Friday's three-point contest, which Clark was supposed to participate in before her injury, still saw an 89% increase in viewership compared to the previous year.
Why?
Because fans were hoping, praying that maybe Clark would make a surprise appearance. That's how desperate people are to see her play. They'll watch an event she's not even in just on the chance she might show up. And let's address the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. The physical targeting of Clark isn't just bad for basketball. It's killing the league's business model. Every hard foul, every uncalled flagrant, every time a defender gets away with roughing her up, that's money walking out the door. That's viewers finding something else to watch. That's sponsors wondering if their investment makes sense. Here's what's really happening behind closed doors right now. Network executives are having emergency meetings. They paid big money for WNBA rights, thinking they were buying into the Caitlin Clark era. Instead, they're getting games with Liberty vs. Dream, pulling 160,000 viewers. That's not primetime material. That's barely late-night cable numbers. The new media deal worth $200 million per year kicks in next season. You think ESPN and Amazon are feeling good about that investment right now? They're watching their golden goose get beat up every game with no protection, missing huge chunks of the season and taking their ratings with her. That's not sustainable. That's a disaster waiting to happen. But here's where it gets really interesting. And by interesting, I mean completely predictable if you've been paying attention. The league's response to Clark's injury has been absolutely bizarre. First, they said she was day to day. Then it became week to week. Then suddenly there's no timeline at all. Coach Stephanie White keeps saying they're being cautious and playing the long game. You know what that sounds like? Damage control. They know if they admit Clark might be out for an extended period, the bottom falls out completely. Meanwhile, the Fever are trying to pretend everything is normal. We've played without her before, they say.
We know how to adjust. Sure.
And how's that working out? They're 3-4 without Clark this season. More importantly, nobody's watching. Their games without Clark are drawing fewer viewers than some high school state championships. That's not an exaggeration. That's reality. And can we talk about the conspiracy of silence around why this keeps happening? Clark has now missed 18 games this season due to 3 separate injuries. 3. She didn't miss a single game in college. Not one. She plays 1 year in the WNBA with their let them play officiating. And suddenly she's more injured than a running back in the NFL. Connect the dots, people. This isn't bad luck. This is what happens when you let defenders treat your star player like a tackling dummy. Every game, Clark takes hits that would get flagged in men's college basketball. But in the WNBA, play on. And now everyone's shocked that she can't stay healthy. Give me a break. The really damaging part is what this means for casual fans. You know, the millions of people who started watching because of Clark. Every week she's out, they're forming new habits, watching other sports, finding other entertainment, breaking that routine of tuning in for Fever games. Once you lose those viewers, good luck getting them back, especially when football season starts and there's actual competition for eyeballs. Speaking of competition, let's talk about what's coming. The WNBA without Clark is about to go head-to-head with NFL preseason, college football, US Open tennis, and MLB playoffs. You think a Liberty versus Lynx game is competing with that? Without Clark, this league is about to learn what irrelevance feels like again. But here's the part that really gets me fired up. The players who complained about Clark getting too much attention, the ones who said the league was bigger than one player, where are they now? Their games without Clark are drawing WNBA season 2022 numbers. Congratulations, you got what you wanted. Clark's not playing and nobody's watching. Hope it was worth it. And Angel Ree being out doesn't help either. But let's be honest about the difference. Sky games without Ree might lose 20-30% of viewers. Fever games without Clark lose 50 to 60%. National games without Clark lose over half their audience. That's not the same thing. That's not even close to the same thing. The league tried to manufacture other storylines. They pushed the AC's dynasty narrative. They highlighted Wilson's MVP campaign. They promoted the Liberty's perfect season. And you know what? Nobody cared. Without Clark on the court, all those storylines combined couldn't maintain half the viewership she brings by herself. Here's a stat that should blow your mind. Clark has played just 13 games this season. 13, and she's still driving more merchandise sales, more ticket sales, and more viewership than any other player. Teams are still selling out arenas for Fever Road games on the hope that maybe Clark will be back. That's not normal star power. That's transcendent athlete territory. Now, let's talk about what really happened with this latest injury, because the communication has been a complete mess. July 15th, Clark goes down in the final seconds against Connecticut. The Fever initially call it precautionary. She'll be reevaluated. Standard procedure. Then suddenly she's missing the All-Star game, missing the Commissioner's Cup, missing game after game with no return date in sight. You want to know what's really going on? The Fever are caught between protecting their investment and keeping the league happy. They know Clark needs serious rest to heal properly, but they also know every game she misses costs the league millions in viewership. So, they keep floating these maybe she'll be back next game updates to keep people tuning in. It's manipulation, plain and simple. The craziest part, even with Clark just sitting on the bench in street clothes, Fever home games still sell out. Fans show up just to see her wave and sign autographs. That's the kind of star power the WNBA has never seen before. And instead of protecting it, They let defenders beat her up until she literally can't play anymore. And don't even get me started on the Olympic decision. Clark gets snubbed from Team USA supposedly to protect her from burnout. But then the league lets her get physically destroyed in regular season games. Make it make sense. They protected her from representing her country, but not from getting mugged every time she touches the ball. Here's what nobody wants to admit. The WNBA's entire growth narrative is built on one player's availability. That historic attendance, Clark. Record merchandise sales, Clark. Social media engagement through the roof, Clark. Take her out of the equation, and what do you have? A league that looks exactly like it did 3 years ago, just with bigger contracts they can't afford. The owners know this. That's why there's panic behind closed doors right now. They're looking at August and September without Clark and seeing disaster. They're watching their investment tank in real time. Some of these expansion franchises that paid $50 million to get in, they're wondering if they just bought into a bubble that's about to burst. You want to know the real tragedy here? This was completely preventable. If the league had protected Clark from day one, called fouls consistently, suspended players for targeting her, we wouldn't be here. She'd be healthy, playing every game, and ratings would be through the roof. Instead, they let the inmates run the asylum, and now their meal ticket is injured for the 3rd time this season. The solution is simple, but the league won't do it. Come out publicly and say, "We're changing how games are officiated." Star players will be protected. Targeting will result in suspensions. But they won't because they're scared of the old guard players who think Clark gets too much attention already. So instead, they'll watch their ratings crater and pretend they don't know why. Let me paint you a picture of what's coming. Clark misses another month. Ratings continue to tank. By the time she comes back, if she comes back this season, half the casual audience has moved on. The playoffs roll around without the momentum they should have had. Next season starts with questions about whether Clark can stay healthy. Sponsors get nervous. The new TV deal looks like an overpay. That's not pessimism. That's pattern recognition. We've seen this movie before in women's sports. One transcendent athlete carries the league, gets hurt, and everything collapses. The difference is this time it was preventable. This time they had warning signs. This time they chose to let it happen. The saddest part, Clark loves this game. She wants to play every minute. She's not sitting out for load management or contract disputes. She's legitimately injured from the beating she takes every game. And the league that should be protecting its biggest asset is nowhere to be found. Mark my words, when the documentary about this era gets made in 10 years, this will be the turning point. Not when Clark got drafted, not when she won Rookie of the Year, but when the league let her get injured repeatedly and watch their ratings disappear. That's when everyone will realize the WNBA had lightning in a bottle and let it slip through their fingers. So what happens next? The Fever keep playing games nobody watches. The league keeps pretending everything is fine. Networks quietly start planning their exit strategies. And Caitlin Clark, the one player who could have changed everything, sits on the bench wondering why the league she's trying to save won't protect her. The bottom line is this. The WNBA just proved it's not ready for prime time. When your entire business model depends on one player and you can't even keep her healthy, you're not a major league. You're a sideshow that got lucky. And now that luck has run out, what do you think? Can the WNBA survive without Clark? Or is this the beginning of the end? Drop your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe for more real talk about what's really happening in women's basketball. Until next time, this is your source for the truth the mainstream media won't tell.